Hello, welcome to Scrap Time. My name's Christine, and in this video I'm going to be showing you 10 ways that you can use the Dina Wakley Media Gloss Spray. Now this is a new product to come out on the market, and it's actually a glossy acrylic spray. This isn't like a dye spray like you have with distress sprays or like dilutions. This is like an acrylic paint in a spritz spray. So it's completely different than some of the other sprays you've used. So the first way I'm going to show you is just how you can spray and blend the colors on a watercolor paper. There's no gesso, there's nothing. This is just a watercolor paper. Now, because they're acrylic sprays, you may not necessarily need a watercolor paper. You could potentially just use a regular paper because acrylic will go over many porous surfaces. So I'm going to start with turquoise, and every time you use these sprays you want to just give them a mix. There's a mixing ball inside, and then I'm just going to spray some color on. Now you can see how it sprays and then it sort of separates a bit. I'm going to spray ocean. And then I'm going to put some pink in there. I'm going to use magenta. Now when you spray these wet, then the colors will blend together and form, you can see like some purples and stuff going on there. So that is the first way. You can see it's still activating and the colors moving in that. Sort of cool. So I'm going to set that aside. And for now, I'm going to wipe the excess off. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is the exact same thing, but now I have a gesso paper. So I'm going to use the same colors. And you can see on the gesso, again, how, because the gesso is there, how it's resisting some of the paint. And so again, the colors are blending. You have some purple going on and that there. But again, if you compare, here, because it was paper without gesso, it's absorbing in. And here on the gesso, you can see on spots, it's sitting on top. And it's like, for whatever reason, part of the gesso sort of resists the paint like that, which can therefore be used in a technique later. So we'll put those aside. Oops. That's another technique. Foreshadowing. So while I have that there, I'm going to show you another thing we can do, and we'll do it throughout, is with the excess paint. I have gessoed this paper here, and we can pick up the color. There wasn't a lot there, but I'm going to just leave it like that, put it aside, and we're going to do it again later. So next I'm going to make a print. So for this one, let's use some pinks and purples. I'll show you what I made. So just to back up, so this was my piece I had made before with it on the gesso, versus this was my sample before. You can see the difference once it dries, how much the gesso had resisted, and here how it had sunk into the paper because it's porous. So now we're going to do a print. So I'm going to spray inks on, and then we're going to do a print and end up with two pieces. Now because I used pink in that one, I think I'll go back to using some blues and greens maybe. So again, I'll use turquoise, and I'm going to use lime this time. And then maybe some ocean again. Then I'm going to take a second piece. Again, this has been gessoed. And I'm going to lay it down, and ta-da! now we have two prints, and they're sort of cool. So there's another technique for you. We can see with our thing here, just try and pick up some of that. This will be an interesting print probably by the end with all the different colors we have going on. And then okay, so next what we're going to do is a brayering technique while it is wet. So now I just want to say I have just regular paper. This isn't watercolor paper, but because I've gessoed it, I have the same working surface that I did before. So I'm just getting my brayer. And I'll go and use some pink. So this is magenta. And what I do is I spray it at one end. And then I take it and run my brayer over it. And so then you can see you get those interesting lines. And then while it's still wet, I'm going to turn it around. And I think I'll use eggplant. And put a little bit at this end. Oops, that spray isn't so sprayy, but it'll do fine. And then just, and so again, because it's wet, the two colors will sort of blend together. But by brayering it, again, you get some really interesting texture going on there. So I'll put that one aside. So we're going to do the same thing this time, but what we're going to do is only brayer one side. So here I brayered orange and then I sprayed some pink later. And what will happen is the orange, instead of the colors blending together, will resist. So I'm going to do ocean. I have to just roll my brayer off. I had the purple on there. Some of that purple, because it's on my sheet, is coming through, but that's fine. Might put just a little bit more color down. Just to bring it up a bit. So I'm going to put that one aside. This doesn't take that long to dry, so while we do some other techniques, that will dry. And then you probably want to wash your brayer off. I find that mine had a stickiness to it. Because it's a gloss acrylic, they tend to be a little sticky. So you can see if you're using a craft mat how I can just clean it off. I'm not even using water, and I'm able to just sort of scrape off that gloss. Okay, so next up, I want to use it through a stencil. So I'm going to pull out one of these ones we already did. So this one was that print we just did, and it is pretty dry. You can see that was something else on my finger, but pretty dry. So I'm going to use that for the print. And I have my stencil here. This is a Crafter's Workshop stencil. And because we use that, I'm going to go with fuchsia. We haven't used fuchsia yet. Now I was a little generous with my spraying because I'm going to do a print. So I have that other sheet from that double print. So you can see there we have the fuchsia. Move it over a bit so it won't interfere. And then here I can lay it down. And this print isn't as good as the one I did here. Here's the other print I did. but you're not getting that solid image, but at the same time you're still transferring ink. So even if the print isn't as clear, it still gives you an interesting background. It doesn't have to be the clearest print, but it's still pretty cool. I can take which one? This one here. See, I still have ink on this, and even just transfer a bit more ink over. So again, I just get other added spots to it, which helps build up the background. And then I can take my page I've been using and just put it in here. I like that color. I'm going to wash this and put in some water later. Put it aside for now. Okay, so next up I'm going to stamp. So I'm trying to think what colors, what am I going to do it on? I think I'll use blue, and I'm going to stamp on this background we did. So to stamp, you spray some color on your mat. And this is best with foam stamps. And then I just put it in. Get some color on there. And then we'll see how it works on this. Ooh, you can see some of those dots showing up. Sort of cool. So there we have some dots going on. Put that over there. And again, we have wash your stamp afterwards. You want to wash that off. I'll put that on my pile to wash. And because we have some ink here, I'm always sort of dipping in. We're now getting all the ink in the same spot. Oh, could be sort of interesting. I'll probably stop with that one. So I want to do a dipping thing just because that one, we've been doing this one, but it's a little crazy. This was the one I had done before. But if you actually just wanted to dip without having to worry, what colors do I want to do? We haven't used orange much. Let's use some orange. So you can just spray some orange and some light pink and some fuchsia. And then you can just dip it straight in. Ooh, see those are colors I like. So I'd let that dry, and then you can always do another layer. So you can just dip your papers into inks on your craft sheet. So let's get that up now. Now, of course, these weren't designed just to use on their own. They were designed to work with acrylic paints. So here I had an acrylic paint background. This was from the Inky Background series. And I want to show you, I used pink here. And it got into, this was a die cut. And it got into those little ridges, so you can really now see the design of the die cut. And then here I used orange. And you should be able to see that there was texture, circles in that. So it went into that. And then here with the green, with all the cracks, it just helps highlight all that texture that was on there. But I have this one here, so I just thought I'll spray a bit of paint over top of it. This is Magenta. And when you spray it on acrylic, though, it does, like we showed originally with the gesso, you might see it sort of resists it in parts, but you still get the ink on it. So this product, I like to use it. I think it's fun, But if you're a person that like is very concerned and has an outcome in your mind, it might not be the product for you because it does its own thing, as you can see again with the resisting and that. So it may or may not. But even though it's a gloss spray, you can still see that pink is sitting on top of the acrylic and the blue sitting on top. So it does add colors to your layers you already had there. Oh, we have to go back to our resist over here. I'm going to get a clean napkin. So I'm going to spray. So this was, we had brayered it and let it dry. So now I'm going to spray orange cheddar over it. If you don't want it over all the blue, you can just sort of take it off. But instead of the colors blending like they did here, where you have the blues and greens and that blends together, here you have your orange and your blue, even though when they overlap, they might change color a bit. So it's two ways. You can do the brayering while it's wet, or you can do it one side, let it dry, and then add the other side if you don't want the colors. And that's how you can get the orange and blue, because together they would form sort of a muddy color. And one final thing I want to show you is, which one should we use? We can use this one. Is you can use the sprays for little drops. So I have eggplant here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw off the top, use this, and it can be little droplets on your project. And even though they're like a gloss, they'll still show up even on different backgrounds. So that should give you a lot of ways that you can start off by using these sprays. And this is just on their own. It's not even really mixing with the acrylic paints too much. So I'm going to be doing some more videos showing you more ways that you can use the sprays, more mixed with different acrylics and that, and different mediums. But if you enjoy what you see, hopefully you can check out Dina's glossy acrylic sprays. They come in 12 colors. I only have a few colors here. I have about 7 here today that I've been using and showing you, but they come in 12 colors at this point. Thanks for watching. Be sure to give our video a thumbs up and subscribe to Scrap Time videos on YouTube. In the meantime, here are a couple other videos you might be interested in watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.